Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to Cinderella Stories, Ep.4 with Ash and Sav, as per usual. With Ash and Sav. Okay. Just myself then, I guess. Hello, hi besties. Welcome inside Cinderella Stories with Ash and Sav. As you can see, it's just Ash today, okay? It's a solo mission. Savannah left me to do the heavy lifting, but for a very good reason, because she is off in the West Coast in BC as a guest coach for a girls basketball camp ahead of the WNBA Canada game that's taking place out there this weekend. So she is booked and busy, which we love to see. But I did have the chance to hang out with her a little bit this weekend because she popped by the Bentway where Canada basketball was having their 3x3 championships this weekend. So it was 16 teams, 8 men, 8 women from provinces all across the country, U23 tournament, vying for a chance to represent Canada on the national stage. When I left the Bentway, they were booking flights to Manila. So they're already on the move. Team Ontario swept in both categories, both the men's and the women's. So shout out to them. But my voice, as you'll notice, is a little raw. It's been through some things this weekend because on top of the Canada Basketball 3x3 hosting, which was fantastic, by the way, if you haven't experienced that event specifically, highly, highly recommend. But I also had to call, I shouldn't say had to kind of sounds like complaining, no? I also got to call a Northern Super League match as well on Saturday. So I went from the Bentway to the Dome Studios and we had Halifax against Vancouver, which was a fantastic game as well. So it was grueling, but it was worth it. And I'm happy to be back in the podcast studio here with you today. Of course, holding it down on the production element, we have our youth, Nadine. So shout out to her. We're going to hear from her a little bit later because she just has like the quintessential your parents are not mad, they're just disappointed in you story when it comes to tennis. But the theme for the episode today, because I'm here by myself, is certainly it's a solo mission kind of day. And we're highlighting a couple of women who have been doing some things independently for some a long period of time, some a short period of time, but nonetheless just impressing. And I'm talking about A'ja Wilson, for example. This WNBA last weekend had rivalry week, and she got the first ever 30-20 double-double in WNBA history. So we're going to get into a little bit why A'ja Wilson is the best player in the WNBA, question mark? Exclamation mark? It depends who you ask, I guess. We're going to have some of those conversations, but we have to start right here at home. I know it was a week ago, but we didn't get the chance to talk about it, but the entire world stopped in its tracks to watch Victoria Mboko take the National Bank Open title against Naomi, Osaka. And I just cannot tell you first and foremost how jubilated, I don't know if that's the correct word in this instance, I'm pretty sure it is, how jubilated I am to see Queen Victoria take the title. But not only that, to be able to sit here and talk about Summer McIntosh and Victoria Mboko in back-to-back weeks, and it's not even forced news. I remember a time that it did feel like if you tried to insert women's sports into the conversation, it felt in a lot of ways like, oh, are there bigger stories? No. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about Victoria and, you know, what she's accomplished, but we're going to bring it back because I really want to impress upon you that this kid from Montreal who's 18 years old, she's turning 19 at the end of August, was ranked 350th at the beginning of this year. She was a blip on the radar. She obviously had big aspirations and her family and her coaches had designs on what her career could be. Do they think that she could do it this quickly? Unsure. But she started at 350 in the world ranking. And then she went off in January and February and rattled off 22 consecutive wins without dropping a set. And that was on the ITF circuit, the singles titles. She won 4 in that time span. So obviously her stock shot way up. Now she's sitting there as a 24th ranked women's player with a bid in the US Open. Yes. As a result, though, because in the National Bank Open, she had a wrist injury while she was beating 4 women's Grand Slam champions in succession, doing quick work. She hurt her wrist. So her, as well as Naomi Osaka, who she beat in the National Bank Open final, have both withdrawn from the Cincinnati Open. And as a result, they want to make sure that they're just in tip-top form for the U.S. Open. I will say on the side of Naomi Osaka, she received a lot of criticism following her loss against Mboko because she looked, I wouldn't even say lightly salted. She looked Himalayan pink sea salt, like big chunks of it on the top of a really nice steak. Like she was not happy. She seemed out of sorts. One thing to note though is Naomi Osaka has been very open about her mental health struggles. She took a leave of absence from tennis a little while ago because she just needed to regroup and, find herself again. So I'm not trying to start propaganda and say, oh, she's back in that dark, twisty place again. But I am saying that she did look off. She did look at multiple points in that match that she just was in a daze, as she said herself. She didn't have her wits about her. And Mboko showed a level of resilience that's very hard to demonstrate from a young athlete. The only other person at this young age to beat 4 Grand Slam winners en route to a title was none other than Miss Serena Williams. And this Mboko stuff, it comes at an interesting time because I swear to hate Jesus H. Christ. I swear to God that I was just talking to Savannah about this. Shout out Savannah. We do miss you, by the way. About the Canadian tennis players. We were talking specifically about the women's side, their ability to have these big moments and then not be able to ride the momentum to sustain success. And a lot of it has to do with injuries, right? If you talk about more modern time frame, Eugenie Bouchard, she was in the Wimbledon finals, I believe, or semifinals. And then she fell, slipped, had a concussion, was unable to play, never really came back. She did make an appearance in National Bank before officially announcing her retirement. Then it was Bianca Andreescu, and she beat Serena Williams, and she won the U.S. Open. And then it's just been like injury after injury after injury piling up for Bianca. And then you had Leylah Fernandez, and she's been great as well, but hasn't really been able to, exercise some of the giants in this sport to have that really big time standout moment. And then Victoria comes along and she says, okay, hold my towel. I don't know, whatever they have in tennis, I guess, hold my towel. I was going to say hold my balls, but that's no. Hold my towel. And she comes in and she just absolutely dominates. And they kept calling her the comeback kid. And at first I was kind of annoyed with it. Like, yeah, I get it. But then you go back and you watch some of the sets that she was able to win, some of the games that she was able to win, a 25 hit rally that she was able to, she lost that point, but then came right back and was undeterred. So shout out to her, 350th ranking in the world. Now she's sitting at the 24th ranking. She's going to be going to the U.S. Open, a place where she made a juniors appearance in 2022, advanced through to the semifinals, but also the money. Give me my money, okay? So Mboko took home to $752,000 and change from winning the National Bank Open. Her previous career earnings were sub 500. So in a heartbeat, she doubled it. And that is what we love to see, is that these women are getting paid. So shout out to Victoria Mboko, another teenage Canadian sensation, our lead story on Cinderella Stories in back-to-back weeks. I could cry. Okay. So jump scare, because I do want to introduce our youth. This is Nadine. She's our associate producer on Cinderella Stories. She's a recent graduate at TMU, but I wanted to bring her on before we wrap up this Victoria Mboko situation, because you were telling a hilarious story about your dad's response to watching Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Is that who I'm thinking of? Okay. Yeah. So why don't you lay the groundwork, because as a former tennis player, obviously you've fallen off just a little bit. She's here with us now. Yeah. But it's just a perfect story of parents' expectations of you. So go ahead.
So I think it was the 2022 US Open final. It was around like midnight, because this was back in India.
Okay.
I wasn't watching it from Canada. I was with my parents. So my family's a very big tennis family, just FYI. So the stakes were high already.
Okay.
And we started watching the game. Obviously, Alcaraz, nobody knows about him until this tournament. And everybody wants the underdog to win.
Mm-hmm.
It was against Casper Ruud, and obviously, like everybody knows, that was his first Grand Slam that he won.
Yes.
And in classic parent fashion, I was like, something just feels off. And I turn around and I'm like, oh. And then I see my parents just breathing down my neck.
Arms crossed in the shadows behind you.
And I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be happy right now, but like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And then they're like, do you know how old he is? I'm like, no.
Tell me.
And then they're like, he's your age. He's 19. And he won a whole Grand Slam. And what are you doing right now? You're sitting here under the AC, doing nothing.
Living in the life of luxury.
Living the life of luxury. And that could have been you. But instead, you choose to sit here and do nothing. Are you first generation Canadian? I'm not even Canadian.
You're not Canadian?
I'm not Canadian.
Okay, so I was going to say, I'm first generation Canadian on my dad's side, and it's a very immigrant parent thing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like on top of just your parents having expectations and wanting what's better for you than what they had.
Yeah.
That those requirements too are also just like very cliche, like immigrant parent things. It's like, I didn't leave my life for you for this, to be sitting on the couch, to be sitting on this podcast. I suffered for Cinderella Stories.
Yeah.
Your dad's actually our biggest hater.
Oh, yeah, no, he was like, that could have been you there, but who asked you to leave tennis? And I'm minded. Back at home, it is 45 degrees in the summer.
It's tough.
It's tough, and it's hot. It's sunny. Who wants to play tennis in 45-degree weather?
I don't want to play tennis in 29-degree weather, so certainly not 45. Now, on to the WNBA, Miss Asia Wilson, and I am repping the Aces shirt, unironed, as you can tell. I couldn't find my steamer. But I was like, Asia's too important not to wear this shirt. So Asia Wilson became the first WNBA player to record a 30-20 double-double in the history of the league. She also added 5 assists. It was in a win over the Connecticut Sun, 94-86. She had 32 points, 20 boards, as I said, 5 dimes. And don't look now, but as of this recording, the Aces have won 4 games in a row after a back and forth kind of all season. And this is their longest winning streak. But I think a lot of people get swept up in recency bias when it comes to any athlete, men or women across the board. And with the Caitlin Clark phenomenon and the Angel Reese popularity wave that we've seen, Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, all these young women who are taking over the game. Asia Wilson is that girl, has been that girl, should remain that girl. And I think that this was a reminder because the Aces have had growing pains and tough times all season to the point they got absolutely smacked in the teeth. They had no answer. I think the Aces have been kind of waffling, good, bad, bad, good, like what are you? And then they got killed by 27 against the Fever. And then Asia Wilson comes out and she says, hey, if you weren't embarrassed by that, don't show up to practice the next day. Have some pride, have some self-respect, hold yourself to a higher standard. And then she comes in and she gets 30 and 20 in the midst of a 4-game win streak for the Aces, really just showcasing exactly who she is and why she is the best player in the WNBA. And I think it's a safe thing to say because her accomplishments speak for themselves. Okay. So she's the fastest player in the W to reach 5,000 points. Okay. Very good, very good, very good. Right. She's a 3-time WNBA MVP. She's a 2-time WNBA champion. She's a 1-time MVP in the finals. Oh, wait, you want more? She's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. She's been named 3 times to the first team all defense in the league as well. 3 times she's led the league in blocks. And she was the 2018 Rookie of the Year. So since she's entered the league, she's been doing big things. And I didn't even get to start on the international stage, okay? 2-time Olympic gold, Olympics MVP in 2024 in Paris, 2-time All-Star 5s in the Olympics. That's like their best of the best. And then 2-time USA Basketball Athlete of the Year. What can't she do? She also has a signature shoe that's really beautiful. And some of these shoes these athletes be coming out with, not on my feet, not even when they're unpedicured. I'll tell you that for free. So Asia does it right at every stage. Now what's left, do you say? Well, I think that she needs to head into the entertainment industry, okay? She needs a movie. I feel like we see all these players get movies. Shaq had a movie when he was in the forefront of pop culture. Obviously, Space Jam is something that is a point of reference across pop culture and sports for every single person, every generation. LeBron made the remake of it. And so Asia needs this. And here's what I suggest. Okay, come with me on this journey. So we have Asia Wilson, Bam Adebayo. Asia plays in the W, Bam plays in the MNBA. They don't like each other. They were on set maybe for a Wheaties commercial, and Bam was being a diva. He was late. He held things up. He stole Asia's hair and makeup artist because he needed touch-ups. And she's sitting there being like, I have all these accolades, and you're out here doing what? Being tall and useless. Anyway, so they don't like each other. They run into each other later down the road. The opposite of a meet cute. They're enemies now. And then a Freaky Friday situation transpires. Boom, switch bodies.
So you're in my body and I'm in your body.
Now Asia is in Bam's body and plays in the MNBA. The Miami Heat start going on a tear. Asia as Bam is next level. The footwork somehow has improved. The touch around the rim, beautiful. The support, the teamsmanship, whatever. Bam is an improved player and person, 10 out of 10, no notes. Meanwhile, cut away, Bam in the W, forearm shiver, going down, looking for a foul, call doesn't come. Welcome to the W moments, night in and night out. Shooting averages plummet, absolutely plummet. Attitude, ugh. The girls are like, why is he such a diva? Why is he in the Sephora makeup room so long before games? And why is he doing his eyebrows like that? Bam as Asia, because obviously, he's not as artistic because he hasn't had the experience. Finally, Bam gains a much needed respect for the women's game. They meet back, they switch back, and then there's like a cute like little love and basketball moment because I obviously love a rom-com. So it's enemies to lovers. Enemies to friends to lovers, maybe. I'm open to whatever. And it's showing that now Bam, although we already know he stands women's sports, as an NBA player has to put respect on the W game. End scene. I just think it would be featured at least on La Culturistas next year for the Culture Awards. But also we need a new like Bend It Like Beckham-esque movie, but in the basketball space with a female lead. Okay. That's my take on that. But since we're talking about people who are doing things big and doing things differently, I am going to bring in Savannah Hamilton right now because Angel Reese is a lot of people's favorite WNBA player. Asia, I think, is the best player in the league, but Angel, a lot of people ride and die for this girl, and I get it. I really, really get it. So here's Sav from Beyond the Cinderella Stories pod grave to talk about Angel being on the cover of 2K.
Angel Reese and Eminem have one big thing in common that has turned the hate into headlines. But it's the how they do it that's the real contributing factor to their success. Let's unbox it. Literally, Reebok sent me this. I just want to talk from my chest, given all the reactions I've seen from her being named on the cover of NBA 2K this year. In recent history, Angel Reese has the most and possibly the best brand strategy of any athlete right now. There's a lot. You could love to hate her, hate to love her. She's that girl. Should I try this on? My cat will like this. Two-time WNBA All-Star and the first professional basketball player, male or female, to ever grace the cover of Vogue. She and her team pulled a page straight out of Eminem's 8 Mile playbook. So you know that final battle in the movie where Eminem comes up on stage and says everything bad about himself first, so by the time the opponent has to go up against him, he has nothing left to say? We all know that wasn't just a movie moment, that was his brand blueprint. He built a career off of owning his own narrative before anybody else could. There's literally articles breaking down this whole thing. So much power is in strategic self-deprecation. Angel Reese is doing the same. How though? She's not rapping. We all know about me bounds. Instead of getting bitter over people mocking her for rebounding her own missed layups, she said, wait a minute, I sense an opportunity. No, literally, she said it.
Whoever came up with the me bounce thing,
Y'all ate that up because rebounds, anything that comes off that board, it's mine. And a brand, that's 6 figures right there. The trolling, I love when y'all do it because, like, the ideas be good.
My girl said, that sounds like money. Let's trademark it. She dropped merch, and not even this Reebok line. She dropped a different set of merch. But not just that, she took it one step further. A portion from the proceeds from the Me Bounds line actually goes to anti-cyberbullying causes. And we all know she's openly talked about. That is turning pain into proceeds. So she's not just cashing in. She's actually confronting the very harm she herself has experienced. The real Slim Shady would be proud. Not gonna lie, these actually look legit. Like, as a former player, I would probably actually wear this. She leaned into her nickname, the Bayou Barbie, because she was a star at LSU the same year that the Barbie movie came out. Her leaning into the pink, the glam, the femininity landed her 2 invitations back to back to the Met Gala. And the fact that she announced that she was even entering the WNBA with Vogue was iconic. Iconic. And low-hanging fruit like Reese's Pieces, of course Angel's team took advantage of that one. That was just given to them. I'm just gonna put all of her deals on screen right now. Yeah, I'll wait. Yup, keep going. Yup, okay. Yeah, I'm probably missing a lot too. It takes more than just brand deals to land yourself on the cover of NBA 2K, especially as an all-star reserve this year. Last year, she had the most double-doubles in WNBA history in a rookie season with 24. She is the 5th WNBA rookie to average a double-double over the course of a season. The thing with her is that double-double is probably her middle name. She should get a brand deal with Tim Hortons next for double-double coffee. This season, she became the fastest player to achieve 450 points and 450 rebounds in only 35 games. Woo! Imagine all that while basically becoming a full-time influencer. It is such a disservice to compare her to anyone. Her game is not only effective, it's also improving. Her brand spans over beauty, fashion, basketball, and food. Not one mega deal, it's a full ecosystem. And if she's not the most prolific athlete when it comes to brand diversity, yeah, she's close. Yeah, like Reebok sent me this box, but honestly, Angel Reese is out here sending messages.
Thank you, Sav. Always so insightful. We'll get to her again because she does have a fantastic take and information on one Leah McNabb, who's kind of changing the game in terms of her work and women's work in basketball, in the NBA specifically, after working with NBA Canada. So another weekend of W Hoops. It was just rivalry week and another dust up or 2 in the WNBA. And it feels like every single time we meet, there's another conflict on the court that's brewing. This time, Kelsey Plum, Victoria Burton, LA Sparks, Valkyries. Plum is defending Burton. They come to contact. Burton kind of pushes off a little bit. Plum resets on defense. Burton tries to blow by. Plum sticks out her leg. Both collapse. And Burton pops up. And I think it was certainly a foul on Kelsey Plum. There's no doubt about it. But the best part about this whole interaction is that Burton thinks that Kelsey thinks that Burton is here to help her up. She's here to talk to her. Watch yourself, because I didn't like the way that you did that. And she wasn't there as a friend. She wasn't there to lend a hand. She was there to talk her shit. And listen, it wasn't positive words of affirmation. And even like a month and a half ago or whatever it is, we saw absolutely flatten Caitlin Clark. Like, it's what a PETA sees when a panini press comes down on them. Like, she came in and she just absolutely clobbered her. The physicality, it was on full display. Then Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever comes down and has retribution. The girls are really dragging each other around, okay? They're getting dragged. But the conversation is, are they too violent? Are they doing too much? Has the physicality transcended to another level? But if you've watched the WNBA before the last 2 years, and if you want to listen to some of the OGs like Diana Taurasi, the league is actually less physical than it's ever been. You just haven't had your eyes on it. And so, you know, the players are going face to face. They're barking at each other. They're grabbing, they're clutching, they're pulling. In some instances, they're dashing each other away. But as somebody who absolutely abuses the phrase, let the girls play, just let the girls play. I want to take an honest look here with you as to why we feel like the physicality is too much, what's lending itself to these women being dogs night in and night out, and maybe just like having more of like a nuanced conversation of some of the factors that are in play, okay? So why are the girls getting after it so much? Number one, They all have a dog mentality. There's not a lot of space in the W, right? 156 roster spots, 13 teams, 12 roster spots each. It's something that they're looking to talk about in the CBA, trying to make it so there's, my guess is they're trying to work towards 15 roster spots. And then there's an expansion coming of several new teams that are going to increase the pool of players that can play in the W. But right now, it's the best of the best. And every player in the W was the best on their team. There's a lot of women who are established, who are veteran, who are giving a vibe check to these young players who are coming in and saying, oh, okay, I'm the next, this, that, and the third. All right, well, let's see. And I think that's always something that happens in sports and it just in life, right? It's a generational thing. I need you to prove yourself to me as somebody who's been established. And I think that some of the physicality is drawn from there. Point number 2, as to why the W has been very, very physical, and especially in the eyes of new viewers. I think it's a safe space to say that there is a lot of, or some, internalized misogyny coming from sports fans who didn't grow up watching the WNBA. And I think that collectively, as just a society, we're trying to work through that. We're trying to unlearn some things that we've been taught. And so sometimes you don't even realize, and it's a good, when I opened the segment and I talked about some of the nuance, I think it's a good exercise as we usher in this new era of sports that includes women on a pedestal that has traditionally been reserved for men, and say, okay, why do I think that way? Why do I cringe a little bit harder when it's 2 women coming to blows than when it's 2 men? Well, it's because it's conditioned. It's something that we're used to seeing. You know, women are tough. We do great things. We've been able to be multifaceted through the course of history. It just hasn't been documented. We're able to multitask. We're able to do things in conjunction with each other in succession and multitask really and truly. So, for example, when basketball was first introduced and women were first allowed to play, the court was broken down into sections in hopes that the women wouldn't overexhaust themselves, overextend themselves. You actually weren't even allowed to have unlimited dribbles either. You know, like, because they didn't want the girls to just get too exhausted. Like, how can I? Oh my gosh, I'm so demure. I'm so small. I'm so tiny, right? So meanwhile, you guys, we don't want you to have unlimited dribble, and we want the court to be broken up into sections. Meanwhile, these women are out here giving birth with no drugs, a cheesecloth, and someone holding their shoulder saying, you're doing great, sweetie, but they're too demure and they're too mild to play sports. I promise you will persevere. I promise you will be able to make it out, okay? On the same vein of like women have been tough, I'd like to introduce you, if you haven't seen or don't know, Abby Wambach of the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team. Here's a clip of her going for a header, getting cracked open, and getting stapled shut live on the field in a World Cup qualifier in 2010. This is just peak commitment to the bit, right? She's wincing. I know that hurts. I think maybe now there'd be some concussion protocol put in place, maybe a little bit of disinfectant on the wound before they go in with the staples. But it's a perfect example of how women have been physical. They have been laying it on the line, and they continue to represent everything that we love about sports. We just need to make sure as fans that we're allowing them the grace and the range to be the kind of athlete that they want to be. Okay? But wait, there's more. Because point 3 about the physicality is there's an element of a scarcity mindset as well when it comes to the W, okay? And I don't mean for this to be like some kind of massive think piece, but the reality is it isn't new information. The teams have been long calling for expanded rosters. There's been an influx of expansion, right? Toronto, Portland, Cleveland, Detroit, and then Philly, all these teams in by 2030. So what that's going to do is it's going to move the roster situation from 156 to 270 roster spots, but that's not for another 5 years, right? And so every single player is out there every night knowing that if they don't show up, show out, or they're not a name brand that has a certain level of marketability, that they could be on the chopping block. We just talked about Emma Miesemann last week, and to bring her in for the New York Liberty as they make this final push towards the playoffs, they had to waive Jalen Sherrod. Jalen Sherrod was undrafted out of Colorado. By all accounts, she was a fantastic teammate. She put in the work. The GM of the Liberty wrote this long goodbye, which is really not the norm when it comes to sports and waiving somebody. Funny enough, ironically enough, I guess, Sherrod just signed with the Lynx as well. So that can make for an interesting storyline come the WNBA. Oh, buzzer. Come the WNBA playoffs. But, you know, undrafted out of Colorado for Sherrod, she won a title with the Liberty, and then to make room for her, for somebody who is exceptional, she was waived. And so there's not a lot of time for you to prove yourself, for you to develop a niche role within any organization. And I think that scarcity mindset really ratchets up the stakes and allows for even more of that friction, even more of that compete level, which as sports fans, you should love to see. And then finally, and I'm not going to get not too much on the stripes, but there needs to be a little bit more accountability and consistency from the officials. We've heard it from players time and time again, making sure that the emotion of the game is held at a reasonable level, right? You are responsible for guiding the players in the right direction. If too much gets let go early, things get out of control. If players don't get ejected forthwith, then they have another chance to come back and then retribution transpires. So there's a lot of factors involved, but those are some of the reasons I think that we're seeing this physicality in the W, and it's been physical, and all of this still remains in terms of the reaction to it. So let me know what you think. I spent a lot of time on this. I did, because I really believe that it's something worth discussing, and I think also worth reflecting on if you're a fan who's like, these girls are too physical, they're too violent, Yeah, there's a lot at stake, and also we're used to seeing something one way, and it doesn't mean that women's sports don't get to be as unbridled as men's sports as well. Okay, let's pause on that. And let's go back to Sav, because I mentioned Leah McNabb is somebody who's making waves and paving her way in the sports space. Sav is going to give you a breakdown on exactly what this Canadian has been able to do, and not only in Canada, but in the NBA as a whole.
If I was to ask you to picture an NBA executive, what would come to mind? I'll wait. By any chance, did you picture a Canadian woman who is running the NBA's international strategy? Let's break down the Canadian powerhouse in the business of basketball, Leah McNabb. Last week, I had the privilege of actually hosting the Ontario Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I got to introduce Leah on stage. She got inducted in the class of 2024, making history as the very first woman to ever serve as the managing director of NBA Canada. We always say that basketball is one of the fastest growing sports in Canada, but exactly who is growing it specifically on the business side, and how are they doing it? She's been with the league since 2005. She has literally garnered record-breaking amounts of partnerships. She was instrumental in bringing the WNBA to Canada, specifically the 2 preseason games in Toronto and Edmonton that sold out, and Toronto within minutes. There's a huge reason as to why Canada was able to prove to the league that the demand for a team was real. Don't get me wrong, we all already felt that, but she had to make the numbers make sense. And mission so successful, she is now the head of international strategy and operations, reporting directly to Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum. And it's no secret, the NBA has made it very clear that there's a lot of interest in expanding to Europe. Well, guess what? Our girl is helping steer that ship. Women in executive roles, especially in sports, is so rare that you're probably likely to be able to name all of them off the top of your head. Leah's career alone is a testament as to why more women need to be in these types of executive roles. Leah isn't just smashing glass ceilings. No, she's shaping the game globally. Oh yeah, and she sits on the board of directors for Canada Basketball. She's done all of that while still being an advocate for making sport accessible, especially for new Canadians in underserved communities. So let's celebrate Leah McNabb, say her name, because the more we celebrate women like her, the less rare they become at the top.
Okay, now jump scare again, whoop, because we're welcoming our youth back. Nadine is gonna join me for things that you might have missed in the sporting world this week. And now our first one is the youngest GM in the history of the G League for the Utah Stars. Now, this did not necessarily happen last week. It's something that's been on the radar for a little while, but still worth a conversation, because Katie Benzan has been named the youngest GM in the history of the G League. She's 27 years old, which Again, we're not trying to make this podcast about all our failures. We're trying to make it about these women's successes. And so she was a 3-point specialist at Harvard and then at Maryland. She was with the Washington Mystics during 2022 and then spent time various roles with the Utah Jazz and the Stars before getting named the GM. But I can't imagine. The thing for me, Nadine, is like being that young.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's established. Of course, she knows what she's talking about from a basketball capacity. She's in charge of crafting this team. Regardless of how prepared I felt, I would feel a certain level of intimidation.
Oh, yeah.
Walking
for
into those spaces.
Oh, yeah.
No matter who believes in you.
And the amount of pressure you have to deal with, because you have so much weight on your shoulders to make everything right and never be wrong, basically.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Everyone wants to be the first until they're the first.
Yeah.
And then it's just like a sustained amount of pressure because it's not even like what you got to do in that moment. It's everyone that's coming after you. You basically set the tone.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if you mess up on this podcast right now, there's no way anyone else that's not Savannah and me are going to be on the desk.
Yeah, I'm
so
never
like,
coming back ever again.
Don't mess this up. Like we'll lock the door outside. Like you won't be back. So shout out to Katie for making waves in the G League. It's only a matter of time, I feel, before we get a female GM in the NBA and the MNBA. So, you know, girls, keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. We love to see it. Next, in the WNBA, Alyssa Thomas records her 3rd triple-double in a row. So for context, like the Russell Westbrook essentially of the WNBA, because he went on that crazy run where he averaged a triple-double, I think for 2 seasons. Anyway, she's the first W player to accomplish this feat. She has 19 triple-doubles in her career. No other person has more than 4.
Wow.
So she's doing work. She's doing work. I know you're a big tennis fan.
Yeah.
Are you a big W fan, a basketball fan? Like, what piques your interest when it comes to tuning into various sports?
I mean, not a big W fan yet, but I am getting into it.
Yeah.
I like to see a lot of change. So I like how Toronto is getting a team.
Yeah. You'll be a Tempo fan.
Yeah, we'll be a Tempo fan by default.
Yes.
By default. So that's something that brings my, curiosity and my attention to, because I haven't been too exposed to basketball until I came to Canada, obviously. But yeah.
Do you feel like there's like a guard up for people who want to be casual fans? Because I think that's a conversation that I've had a couple times with a few different people where it's like, I want to dip my toe in the W waters, or I want to dip my toe in the tennis space.
Yeah.
But if I'm entering a conversation with somebody and I don't know the name of everybody, or I don't know the score of the last match.
Yeah, it's a problem.
All of a sudden, like, how does that, how do you navigate that? How does that feel? Like, what would you like to see differently in those instances?
It's like more about the fact that where do I start?
Yeah. Oh, that part too. There's so much.
There's so much. Like, even now I'm just like, okay, W, where do I start? I mean, I learned about all these names about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and everybody, but like,
what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
And like, whom do I compare them to? Like, why should I be knowing about them? Why should I be watching them? And then I get all these comparisons. Oh, she's like the LeBron James. You should be. How do you not know her?
Yeah.
I cannot know everything in this life. I only have one life. Maybe in my next life.
You know what I love about the younger generation? The boundaries. I cannot know everything in this life. Meanwhile, us, we're like, okay, cue a Nicki Minaj song of just like, I'll find out. I'll be ready. I'll be better. I'll be prepared.
I'm trying, though. I'm trying. I'm getting better.
I think first and foremost, this would be my guide to early W fandom.
Yeah.
First, I would say Ellie. Ellie the elephant for the New York Liberty.
Yeah.
She is the mascot. When we were at W All-Star, she's just an it girl. She has her hair done, her nails done. She has her outfits are custom. She has custom bags. Like, she's a girl's girl for sure. But then I would say choose a team. And honestly, even if it's something as simple as, I heard about this player, I like her, I like their team colors, that's my favorite city.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that. Like, oh, okay, I like New York. So I like Liberty. I like to go to Vegas. I love a show. I love a residency. So I'm gonna cheer for the Aces. And then you just learn about that team, watch a couple of their games, and then by osmosis you learn about the other teams that are playing them. That would be my advice, because you can't learn it all at once.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
She has a life. Look at her. She's a young, beautiful woman just finding her stride, just going out for the first time on Caravana weekend. Yeah. We talked about it last podcast. So she doesn't got time for all that. Shout out to the Boston Red Sox. They had a women's only broadcast last week. It's the first time that's happened in their history. And I am here for women's empowerment, obviously. We do a podcast called Cinderella Stories. It's all about women's sports. We have a full women crew and Dylan and,
And Dylan.
Ally. Say something, Dylan. We have a full women's crew. But I will say that, like, the women's empowerment stuff does matter. Of course it does, because you have to see it to believe that you could be there. That stuff is real. And if you don't have it, it makes it really, really difficult to find your way in spaces that you didn't think that you could belong in.
Yep.
However, sometimes at this stage of the game, a lot of it does feel performative, because then what? Because a lot of these women's games are for, like, Women's Empowerment Month or for special events. And yes, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Let's do it. But then what? Right? So I've done it for Raptors 905 2 years in a row now. I did the International Women's Day game. I called play-by-play with Tamika Nurse. Shout out Tamika. And it was fantastic. It was so fun. I loved it. And shout out to Garth, the producer at MLSE, who takes care of 905, because he not only booked me to do the International Women's Day game, he also booked me to fill in for 2 other games as well.
Nice.
And yeah, and so that feels like, oh, okay, I'm not
It's
just...
like a norm. It's not like a once in a while thing or like out of the ordinary kind of thing. So
Well, it feels like you're valued too. It feels like they're not just like, okay, let's get this International Women's Day thing out of the way. Okay, Nadine, go. But, like, as soon as the curtains close, the hook comes and you're like off the stage.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel like, valued, because I don't know how you feel. And this is interesting conversation too for young women who are trying to explore sports. There's a lot of women in sport panels. And a lot of them are the same.
yeah.
And in my estimate, but I've also been going to panels for like 10 years kind of thing. But a lot of it is like, okay, so what now? Like, that's where I'm at.
Like, what's next?
Yeah. Like, how do you feel when you're watching them? Like, do you take something from it? I'm sure, like, I love the stories. I love the stories of the women who are up there and they're telling how they got to where they are.
Yeah.
I'll always have time for that. But I'm at the point where it's like, and then?
Yeah, I mean, I hope to see more of this in the future because, like, obviously, I see all these wonderful, ambitious women on air, behind the scenes, you know, doing what you would think like a man would usually
Traditional
do.
male role, yes.
Yeah, which is wonderful to watch. But, like, again, like you said, like, what's next? Like, how do we make sure, like, we see more women on air, behind the scenes? Like, it's not just about, like, oh yeah, we should have, like, more, like, seats for women in companies. It's more than that. Like, how do you make it a norm?
Yes.
It's not like, oh, we're just hiring them because they're women.
Yeah, DEI situation.
Instead of it being like, oh no, we are hiring you because you are valued, you are skilled, you
have a different perspective
Yeah.
than male counterparts. I agree. It's exciting though, because, and I'm sitting here and I don't mean to sound like I'm bitter or ragging on the fact that women are getting an opportunity to talk peer to peer and make sure that there's mentoring and sponsorship, because all that is super, super important. But for me, it's like, okay, cool. Now we've got to this point and it's time to take the next leap. Women's sports are taking the next leap. So the networking part has to take the next leap. And honestly, congratulations to all the women who were involved in the Red Sox broadcast. I know one of them, her name is Jen McCaffrey. We did a Pitch Talks event together and she is cream of the crop. Like, she knows exactly what she's doing. She was actually, I believe, hired by she worked for the Washington Post, and she was brought off the Red Sox beat to cover the presidential election the first time what's his name got elected, Trump. But so she is just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, cool. So now that they've done a good job and they were exceptional and probably overly prepared, can we, like, make it a little regular?
Yeah.
Can we make, like, a guest appearance, like, a little more of a regular thing? And so I think, like, that's the next step. But I know it's hard because it's a recession in this economy. No one has money. No one has any of that. But that is the news. A couple little sprinkled bits in there of stories that you might have missed this week that we're so happy to see, and we're excited to see what's next when it comes to women's sports. Now, I did not do my homework, Nadine, and I apologize to all our viewers. We were supposed to watch the Diana Taurasi documentary. Yeah, I didn't do that. I did not do that. So look to my socials. I'll try and find some time this week and talk about some of the things that I liked about it, maybe things that we learned and that surprised us. But nonetheless, this has been a fantastic episode of Cinderella Stories. It started off as a solo mission, and then I brought in some reinforcements. thank you for joining me.
Oh, of course.
And honestly, like, to your dad, like, give her a break. She's doing her best, you know?
I love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad.
If you're watching.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Cinderella Stories. As per usual, we'll be back next week with another episode. Savannah will return. And again, we really appreciate all the support that you guys have been showing us so far. So like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. Thank you.